Hi, Mr. Imran Bakri. So, we all know that Palestine and Israel has been in a very difficult situation for many decades. So, could you provide insights into the historical context and events that have shaped the relationship between Palestine and Israel, and how these factors have influenced the current state of affairs in the region itself? Please, Mr. Imran Bakri.
Thank you for Adham at the studio. So now we will go through about the history of the Palestine and the Israel. So before we go into the detail of the law on the law relating to the Israel and the Palestine issue, we take a look about the history of them. During the 1900, the Palestine is a part of the Ottoman Empire, and during that time, the Muslim, the Christian, and the Jews were living in the harmony. But however, there is some group in the European continent that was led by Theodor Herzl that their aim for the movement is to create an independent state of the Jews. Next, we will go through the World War I. The World War I happened from 1914 to the 1980, and this has caused the Ottoman Empire to collapse, and the Palestine have fallen under the British hand. So during the World War I, in 1970, the British has entered the Balfour Declaration, which is this declaration has made British have reserved the spot for Israel in the Palestine, and in return for the Israel they have to support the British during the World War. And this during the World War I, British allowed the Jews to immigrate to the Palestine, and this has caused the tension between the Arab people and the Jewish people to grow. And in 1930, the British tried to limit the immigration of the Jews into the Palestine. But however, the Jews is very against this method, and they have made their own military and was formed to fight back the local Arab and to resist the British rule of the immigration. And furthermore, we fast forward to the World War II. The event that happened is the Holocaust event that was caused by the Nazis from the Germans. That there have been a massive killing from the Nazis to the Jews. The Nazis have killed a huge amount of Jewish people that have been killed at the Germans, and this has caused more Jewish to immigrate to the Palestine. In 1947, the United Nations have approved to split the Palestine into two states, whereas the first state is Jewish Israel and the second is Arab Palestine. And this approval also meant to give Jews a state and to give the Palestine their independence. And next, Israel have declared as a state on May 15, 1948, and their state has been recognized by the United States. And because of this, this has caused many Palestinians to lose their home. And the implication of this, there are many Arab neighboring countries that really oppose their state, and because of this, the war has been broke out. However, the war has been won by the Israel, and during the process, the Israel have been expand their territory and have been expelled a huge amount of the Palestinians. And we can say the estimate amount of the Palestinians that have lost their home is 1.9 million people. So that's all from me. And next, we will go through the topic that whether the invasion of the Israel to the Palestine is valid against the law.
Hi Mr. Wafi, may I ask you what are the diverse viewpoints surrounding the legitimacy of the Israel's land invasion into Palestine, and how do historical claims, international law and geopolitical perspectives contribute to debate about the validity of the invasion? I mean, is it legal for Israel to do such things, and how about its validity? Please, Mr. Wafi.
Next, we move to the issue that whether the Israel invasion to the Palestine is valid. So, the invasion of Israel to the Palestine is unacceptable because it is apparently violate the breach of Palestinian rights. Next, the illegality of Israel use force in Gaza and West Bank as a violation of the law on the use of force, and so an aggression and the legal right of the Palestinian people to self-determination has the following consequence. Israel is obliged to end this use of force immediately, a ceasefire in Gaza and complete termination of the border force-enabled siege on the street, as well as the complete withdrawal of its authority in the West Bank, including in East Jerusalem, because this illegality involves breach of fundamental rules of international law, which have jus cogens and erga omnes status. Since 7 October 2023, many healthcare workers in the Gaza have been killed and injured, adding that the destruction of the hospital put further pressure on the crumbling healthcare system, and it deprived Gaza of facilities that care for more than 45,000 patients before the current hostilities. Israel's decision to withhold food, water, electricity and food from Gaza for nearly 2 weeks as a form of collective punishment prohibited under the Geneva Convention. Israel's act of bombing the civilians of Palestine and bombing the hospital was unacceptable as a human being. After that, the invasion of Israel and the taking of hostage was simply wrong and unacceptable, and their unconditional release is an essential component of return to normalcy. This was against international law, which protect human freedom. For the last scenario that happened, a ceasefire had been agreed between Israel and the Palestine. Unfortunately, Israel had breached the ceasefire with shooting the civilian. Therefore, the invasion of Israel is not valid, and they should be punished by the international law.
Okay, Mr. Ifat, could you share some insights into the current issues and conflicts between Palestine and Israel, and what are the key factors contributing to the ongoing tensions, and what are the perspectives from both sides on these contemporary challenges? Because I see a lot of things happens on the news and social media, and one of them is the usage of phosphorus gas. So could you explain about that, Mr. Ifat?
From river to the sea, Palestine will be free. That is the word that we use to support our Muslim brothers and sisters in Palestine. Now, we will look at the current issue between Palestine and Israel. What happened in Gaza since 7 October? Over 14,800 individuals have lost their lives in Israel offensive. The tragic toll that includes 6,150 children lives and approximately 4,000 women. The destruction wrought upon Gaza is profound, with more than half of its residential structures either obliterated or severely damaged, and numerous places of worship bearing the brunt of the attacks, including mosques, church, and more. In the northern region, 22 out of 24 hospitals that were operational before the conflict are now incapacitated and unable to admit new patients. This shows that there are injured people cannot getting medical attention since the medical facilities are unable to admit new patients. The dire situation extends to basic necessities as the Israeli block or prevent the Palestinians to gain their water supply and electric supply to continue their daily life as a normal human being. The most crucial thing is the Palestinians are forbidden from gathering rainwater. The Israeli military orders to prohibit Palestinians from gathering rainwater for domestic or agricultural purpose due to the property of the Israeli authorities in the area. This shows that Palestinians cannot having a normal daily life as a human being because they were prevented from gaining the water to continue the life. Moreover, because of the bombardment, the bakeries cannot be operational due to the lack of fuel, water, and wet flour, as well as structural damage due to bombardment, as the Israeli also prevent the electric supply to the hospital and the medical facilities. This show in media social, there were a lot of video that show that some of the babies cannot continue their life since the electric supply was cut off from their medical facilities. Now we will look to the Malaysian franchise grapple with impact of boycott. Israel-related brand boycotts have severely impacted food and beverage franchise, causing a significant decrease in customer turnout and revenue, presenting a challenging environment for franchise owners. This shows that in Malaysia, we can see in Starbucks, McDonald's, the boycott having a great impact to the brand. Now we will look to the international law. Thank you. Furthermore, the mass murder of the Palestinians, including children, more than 14,800 people have been killed, including about 6,000 children and 4,000 women in Israeli attacks. According to Islamic law, killing a human being is a major sin, punishable with the most serious punishment in the hereafter. The Holy Quran has equated killing a single person with the killing of entire humanity to highlight the gravity of this crime. Moreover, in verse 32 of Surah Al-Ma'idah, Allah states, which describes that killing innocent people is thus condemned as contrary to the principles of Islam. A person can only be subject to death in extreme cases if he has killed other human, has caused mischief on earth, or by committing crimes against peace, crimes against humanity, and genocide. But they still an infant that does not have any mature thought to cause harm against someone. And lastly, as in 27 October, the ceasefire between Palestine and Israel, 4-day Gaza truce agreed by Hamas and Israel takes effect for the first time after 7 weeks of war. Now we will look to the international law regarding the Palestine and Israel. Thank you.
Now we are here with Mr. Said Karim, a citizen of Palestine. Mr. Said Karim, from your perspective as a Palestinian, how do you perceive the role of international law in the context of situation between Palestine and Israel. How has international law impact your community and influence your views on the ongoing issues? Please, Mr. Said Karim.
Sure, at first glance, international law appears to be a noble concept, promoting peace, universal application of human rights, cooperation, and justice among nations. However, scratch beneath the surface, and a different narrative emerges, shaped by the ghosts of imperialism past. Just look at how international law was eagerly used and is still being used to defend, heal, and deliver justice to the Ukrainian people in the face of Russian aggression. Now compare that with how the same laws, norms, and principles were reduced to mere footnotes and suggestions in the West's response to the ongoing Israeli assault toward the Palestinians. The West, led by the United States, clearly only champions adherence to international law and the rules-based global order when it suits its agenda. According to the United Nations, no single document in international law codifies all war crimes. Lists of what may count as a war crime can be found in various branches of international law, humanitarian, criminal, and customary law. According to the United Nations, a war crime occurs during armed conflict and is a breach of the Geneva Convention and a violation of international humanitarian law. The set of rules, also known as the law of war, that seek to limit the effects of armed conflict. Second, Article 27 of the Hague Regulation states, in siege and bombardments, all necessary steps must be taken to spare, as far as possible, buildings dedicated to hospitals and places where the sick and wounded are collected. It rests on the condition that such buildings must not be used for military purposes and must have visible signs indicating the presence of the building, although it does not clarify what the signs would be. Although Israel has not ratified the Hague Regulations, they are binding on even non-ratifying states as a part of international customary law. The Rome Statutes is a treaty that established the International Criminal Court, the body responsible for investigating and prosecuting the Geneva Convention's violations, such as attack on hospitals and historical monuments. Although Israel does not recognize the ICC, Palestine does, and the attack occurring on Palestinian territory means the ICC has the jurisdiction to investigate and prosecute the perpetrators of the incident. To kick things off, let's talk about the United Nations resolutions. Resolutions 242 and 338 have been pivotal, emphasizing the withdrawal of Israeli forces from occupied territories. But why, despite these resolutions, do we still see tensions and conflict in the region? Moving on to the Fourth Geneva Conventions, which outlines protections for civilians during armed conflicts. The rules of armed conflicts are governed by a set of internationally recognized law and resolutions, including the United Nations Charter, which prohibits aggressive wars but allows countries the right to self-defense. Battlefield behavior has international humanitarian laws, including the Geneva Conventions, drawn up after World War II and agreed on by almost every nation. The four conventions agreed upon in 1949 set out that civilians, the wounded, and prisoners must be treated humanly in wartime. They ban murder, torture, hostage-taking, and humiliating and degrading treatment, and require fighters to treat the other side sick and wounded. The International Court of Justice has issued advisory opinions, such as the one on the West Bank barrier. How binding are these opinions, and why have not we seen more concrete action following them? We have witnessed diplomatic response, like United Nations Security Council Resolution 478 condemning the annexation of East Jerusalem. Why do some argue that these diplomatic measures fall short of what is needed? The Oslo Accords and regional agreements were meant to pave the way for peace in region. Why, despite these agreements, have not we seen a comprehensive resolution to the conflict? Gaza today is not only a children's graveyard, it is also a graveyard of human conscience and international law, a graveyard of man's compassion for his fellow man. Gaza is a cage, they said, but our people broke that cage. To the whole world I say, how dare you say that Israel has the right to cut off our water and electricity from our people in Gaza? How dare you allow Israel to break forbidden international law and use white phosphorus gas on the people of Gaza? To the extent that babies end up with smoke coming out of their noses, they are simply cooked, to say the least, and burned to death. How dare you all reach such an exponential stage of inhumanity, terrorism, brutality, war crimes, and collective punishment atrocities? If there was justice in the world, Palestine would not have been under occupation for more than 75 years. Failure to follow international law in the face of the genocide committed not only paves the way for other war crimes that may occur in the future, but also gives impudence to the oppressors. If we lose today, we will lose the future. If human rights and international laws were not a big joke, the Palestinians would not have suffered for this long. Thank you.